This is piece 46. It's the Pantheon next to our last Roman piece. It has two images. One is of the front of the Pantheon, and the other is a painting done of the interior of the Pantheon in the 17 or 1800s. The context for this piece is that this is one of the many gifts that Roman emperors gave to their citizens. Remember the Colosseum, Forums Trajan, and now the Pantheon. In terms of context also, the Pantheon has survived in pretty impeccable shape, and so it serves as a great model for architecture. This is a piece that was actually designed by Thomas Jefferson, and it's at the University of Virginia. The form, there's a lot to know about the form of the Pantheon. You see here the columns in the portico. Columns have got on the top of their capital shaped kind of like a Corinthian, which is inspired by Egypt. It's a Roman, though, a Roman column format. There is no like exact temple form here. The front of the Pantheon looks like a temple with these columns, but there's no real rigid style. It's kind of a unique building. So vocabulary here, portico. This area is like a porch. It's like a front porch. What makes this a portico is that the columns create the porch. So you imagine going into the front porch of a pretty big building, and then there's a vestibule area. Another new term. In the vestibule would be where you would take off your coat, and then you would enter a rotunda. Rotund, large, round room with a dome. This is the outside looking at some of this. So here is more form. We have this temple looking front. So you want to be able to say, ooh, this is a continuity in terms of architecture. And then it leads into this barrel. Imagine any barrel, whiskey barrel, beer barrel, flour barrel, topped with a dome. On the frieze here, just below the pediment, is in Latin, a translation would be Marcus Agrippa, son of Lucius, made this building when consul for the third time. Consul is like head of the Senate, another name really kind of for emperor. So Marcus Agrippa made it initially. The backside of it burned down, and so it was rebuilt by Trajan. More form. This is, I think, is a great picture. Shows you the buildings of Rome over time here. This is the largest unreinforced concrete dome in history. So it has persisted in 2,000 years with having that fame or that, fame. So here's a bird's eye view of it. You can see again, portico, vestibule, rotunda with a dome. More form. Inside this barrel with a dome, or rotunda with a dome, we have, a sphere, a perfect sphere can fit inside here, 142 feet in diameter. And what I'd like you to see here is this unreinforced concrete, so there's no steel bars in it. If you guys poured like a garage or a sidewalk near your house, you would have steel rebar in it. That's what reinforces concrete today, makes it stay in one place and stay more solid. Notice here, this is concrete. See how thick it is here? And then it gets thinner. So that was one of the ways they were able to make this weight decrease and keep the dome in place this long a time. The other thing that they did is on the inside is they created coffers. So it's not like it's a super thick, solid concrete dome. Instead, they carved out on the inside, making it lighter. Has a great geometric effect. Keep that in mind when I show you more of the interior. But you can see right here, look at this triangle, rectangle, it's kind of square. This is all about geometry. Just in that little bit, you can see it. Great view looking up into the dome at these coffers. Also form, we have this oculus. It's a 30-foot wide opening. I always thought it was 33 feet, but 30-foot wide opening, and everything comes in. So here is an example from before 2007. They started roping off the marble floor because, of course, people would fall and, like crack their heads. But here's rain. Here's a little drain hole in the marble for the rain, melted snow to exit the floor. Okay, there's function. There are three functions that I want to deal with individually here on the Parthenon. This is first and foremost a temple to the Pantheon for Rome. Pantheon means all gods are honored here. And then it's a court for Emperor Hadrian, who finished this up after it burned from. And then it has since 603 been the site of a Catholic church. So first function, temple to the Pantheon for Rome. So do you see these statues here? These initially were pagan gods, and you can see that up here as well. And people could come here, they could offer their prayers to the gods, and like all the gods would be there at once, kind of a nice all-in-one package. Hadrian was a very popular emperor. Of the 147 emperors, he's one of the 5. So he is just like Trajan. He's considered one of the people who kept that Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, going. Interestingly, noteworthy, he is also the only openly gay Roman emperor, and he had a boyfriend who died, and Hadrian put statues for him all around the empire. He is known for having men line up, and he would pick out a lover from this lineup. He also wore a beard, which is kind of something that was more popular with the Greeks, and in Roman art, they feature their barbarians as wearing beards. So that makes him a little bit unique. And he is just a very accomplished man. By 15, he was a soldier. By 20, he worked served as a judge. So he came to the role of emperor pretty well trained, and thus was a great emperor. Hadrian's Wall, you can walk it today. It divides England and Scotland. Hadrian's Wall was the border of the extent of the Roman Empire in the British Isles. And the third function, so Hadrian would hold court here, by the way. So he'd go there, and you could go visit him, and you could ask him for favors. You could share a concern with him, and this is where that happened. Okay, so then the third function is that today, you on the 5th week after Easter, you can celebrate Pentecost. It's the time when the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, comes back down to earth, and he visits the apostles, and he kind of well, I guess I don't know exactly what he does with the apostles. Some people talk about him visiting Judas, who was one of his apostles, who turned him in. At any rate, you can get a pass here, a visitor's pass, and you can go and celebrate that with the Catholic Church, because this has been run by the Catholic Church, and that's probably what's kept it in perfect shape. Content. So we know in terms of form that we have an oculus. In terms of content, what's interesting is that the sun shines through the oculus, and they have marked off when the winter solstice, the equinoxes, summer solstice take place. in this dome. More content is, I've already mentioned the geometry in the coffers and in the wall, the rotunda here, but this is a plan for the floor of the Pantheon. Pretty amazing circles and squares, just geometry like out of sight. I've said that there were gods in these archways and these niches, but this is also a burial place for some pretty popular people. Raphael, who's a painter from the Renaissance, is buried here, and his girlfriend Margherita Leti is also buried here with him in the same sarcophagus. All right, that's the Pantheon.